Reddit forums, TikTok influencers, more and more Canadians, young Canadians, are turning to social media for financial advice. Now, our guest says listening to these Finfluencers can be a good starting point for young investors, but there are hazards. We're joined by Zhang, President of Corporate Citizenship with the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada. Thanks very much for coming on the show. It's hard to get hard numbers here, I know, but give us an idea of how big this Finfluencer, or is it Finfluencer? I'm going to say Finfluencer. How big is this phenomenon?
Well, it's really hard to quantify that number because, as you know, there's so many types of influencers and there's so many different social platforms that are being used. But a good gauge of it is to see how many additional followers are following these influencers. And in the last year, they've seen a tremendous uptick in just the amount of individuals who are looking for information and seeking it through these financial influencers.
A lot of them are quite strident. They'll say this is the quick route to money, to wealth. What are the hazards here?
I think anybody that tells you there's a quick fix to anything is very misleading, especially when it comes to finances. I mean, finances can be complex, can be, very sophisticated. And so thinking it through and being mindful of something such as, what are some of the credentials these influencers have? What background? Are they qualified to be providing you with financial information? And understanding how these influencers are being paid. Do they have an income stream? And how transparent they are about it. All influencers have some way of deriving, an income from what they're doing. So it's super important to understand, especially when they're influencers, how they are being paid. And then finally, if something feels too good to be true, or it's, jumping on a trend, really ask yourself to get a second opinion. And to really understand if that's true in terms of it's a good opportunity and it's right for you versus it's something that someone is trying to sell you.
Is there anything good about this? I mean, it sounds like young people are getting interested in their finances. When I was a youngster, I gave very little thought to this kind of stuff.
I think it's very reassuring that so many young Canadians and Canadians in general are taking an interest in their financial well-being. And I mean, who can blame them? Look at the situation that we're in, right? You're looking at high inflation, high interest rates. Young people are trying to, own their first home. What does that look like in the long term? There's all these questions. And when you look at all the information that the media is providing, it's inundated with this information. So I think as a starting point, if you're looking at learning the foundational aspects, I think it's a great start. But understanding that when it comes to financial information, it's extremely personalized, meaning that it's based on your values and your personal goals. And that can be really different from person to person, and why it's so important to get a second opinion in it and to find a financial professional that's going to cater it to your situation, that it isn't going to be general information and will be acting in your personal best interest.
You will see, though, some registered financial professionals, and it is a confusing alphabet soup and has been for years, but some who are regulated, either self-regulated or provincially or whatever, they are becoming Finfluencers. So there are professionals out there doing this stuff.
Well, absolutely. And in those cases, they're bound by, fiduciary duty, especially to their clients. Now, their information can be hopefully unbiased and objective. But when you're finding one to work for yourself or work for you, it's like any relationship. You kind of need to go through those growing pains. You need to do some interviews and to do some research to find a financial professional that really meets your needs and where you are at that moment. Because sometimes it may be as simple as a quick meeting where you discuss some of your, short-term goals, long-term goals, and off you go. Other times, you may want to have a deeper relationship and a longer relationship.
although you mentioned fiduciary responsibility, quite a few parties in the investment industry have tried to resist that requirement. For example, the latest I heard, dealing representatives, which include virtually all investment financial advisors, they only have to put the client, they only have to make sure the investments are suitable for the client. They're not held to a fiduciary standard.
That's why it's really important to do your research as a consumer, because these are the differences between different designations, and to really understand what that means and what protections you have as a consumer.